Good afternoon, ladies and menfolk, and welcome to the Word Ninja podcast. We're a 2-hour ramble of writers surviving muses, battling writer's blocks, and encouraging writers to get writing already. You're joining us for episode 15. Good lord, how did we make it this far?
On the wings of an angel.
Oh, I hope that's not going to be part of that weird dinosaur story with barbecued angel wings or anything. That would just get awkward. It's not even 1 minute in and we're already starting to derail.
We
Okay,
haven't even introduced ourselves yet.
back to introductions. I am Charles, your instigator of literary insanity and very easily distracted. And joining us today is... Come on, click. Calvin Williams.
Hello, everyone.
William Granville.
Hello, hello.
And Justin Isaacs.
Good day.
We do have an Ed somewhere in the background lurking, but he is not feeling very sociable today.
I'm feeling sick today, I'm sorry.
Must have been too much milk.
Shut up!
And with that, let's move on to the talking points for today, shall we?
Why not?
Talking point number 1 for today. Do holidays or seasons affect your writing at all? E.g., writing horror in October or romance in February. Do your characters get to celebrate any holidays or special events? Would anyone like to kick this one off? Before I mandatorily volunteer someone.
Let's pick somebody.
Eeny, meeny, miny. Calvin talked first.
Haha.
Alright, fine. Well, in terms of story writings, holidays and things like that have never been a major factor. Then again, I've never really thought about having any of my characters celebrate holidays in any sort of major capacity. Music writing, however, that's a completely different story. Not just holidays, but seasons have been a major source of inspiration for me. I've written songs specifically about winter, spring, and the fall. I've yet to create anything summer related. I'm trying to work on that. I'm still trying to figure out what summer feels like. Musically.
Laziness.
That could be. But I'll save a summer song for when the inspiration hits me.
Maybe in the summer?
There have been a number of summers where nothing has hit me. But oddly enough, songs by certain seasons end up happening during different seasons.
I think the summer season is when you write convention songs.
Oh, God.
In terms of holidays, I do have a Christmas song brewing in my head. I think I've mentioned that before.
I don't remember you mentioning the Christmas one.
No, me either. I mean,
go back a few podcasts. I did mention it.
Right
Is
this
it just
second.
Feliz Navidad over and over again?
How did you
That's
know?
what stuck in my head all the time.
No, but this one is going to I know all of you have seen Charlie Brown's Christmas special and anything Charlie Brown related. So if you get a feel for the jazz tracks in any given Charlie Brown cartoon, you'll have a pretty decent idea of how this one's gonna feel. So I'm kind of excited about that. Actually, I'm pretty excited about that. It's just the piano part is a pain in the ass because I don't know how to play piano. But it'll get done eventually.
One of these months.
Or
On
years.
top of the 50 billion other things on the to-do list.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
I guess we'll move it down the line, and it's my turn. Yay.
Yay.
I don't even know what brought up this question when I added it to the show notes, but it did make me think, like, do I actually care about holidays? And the answer is no.
Screw the holidays.
Well, at this point, my family's down to 4 people, if you count extended family. We don't really do holidays much, unless you have a fancy dinner with ham or some such. That's about it. We don't really go all out for anything anymore. So half the time I don't even recognize that holidays are happening. Like tomorrow, for example. But that's because I'm working.
Boo.
But yeah, holidays don't really do much for me in regards to my writing schedule, other than actually this year I'm getting a mandatory week off between Christmas and New Year's. So I'm hoping to take advantage of that, because if the entire office is closed, then there's no excuse for them to try and make me do stuff.
Please.
So I can claim to be focusing entirely on writing, but more realistically, I will probably be playing my Wii U that I have not touched in 4 months. Hopefully some combination thereof, so I can at least have a balance of doing some writing. We'll see.
You could write a character playing a Wii U.
That actually wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, if they've never actually utilized a Wii U before, depending on the game, it could be very hilarious. Probably about as hilarious as our college tries with DDR. With or without the alcohol.
Ah, those were the days.
As for my characters, I've had some actually celebrate their birthdays, or they've forgotten their own birthdays because most of them are too busy to notice, and then someone reminds them. But for the most part, even regular holidays don't happen much in my stories. Either the plot doesn't last that long, or they're in a universe or world where those types of holidays don't really occur that much. So it's never really been an issue or come up. But actually thinking about it, now I kind of want to see how would you integrate a holiday or some sort of celebration into your plot? How would you make it fit in and seem realistic or believable? I may find a way to make that work in November, because I'm sure I'll need word count at some point.
Crap, I need 20,000 words. Hey, it's Christmas.
Surprise birthday. And yeah, that about does it for me. Onward to Justin.
So the seasons more affect how much I write, not really what I write about. Especially when it comes to working seasons. Like in my job, we have like the summer lull where customers don't really want to do any work either, or they have mandatory like an entire month off as the factory shut down to save money. But then there's like the fall rush where everyone tries to spend as much as their budget as humanly possible in as short a time as humanly possible so they can get more budget the next year. So depending on how much I work is a direct opposite correlation to how much I have time to write. Also, for winter and rainy seasons, being stuck indoor often equates to more video games. I mean, writing. And of course, as a horror fan, Halloween inspiration is a pretty big one, especially if I'm writing horror. Even if it's just short stories or the 100 words a day thing, I've often written Halloween or horrible, grotesque themed writing during the month of October, which happens to be now. Also, summer blockbusters tend to inspire me to write more epic stories, especially in the fantasy genre. When the weather's nice, I also like to read and write outdoors, uh, which inspires me a little bit more in a descriptive manner. I tend to write more about scenery, sights, smells, that kind of thing. But as far as like holidays are concerned, in my stories, they're rarely ever featured, despite the fact that a fantasy story can involve multiple years. But I will occasionally have a passing mention for flavor. The problem is that holidays don't often progress the plot unless it's a holiday themed plot event. You know, raiders come in and break in during a Christmas party or something to that effect. But holidays in and of themselves would be more of a background flavor, backstory type scenario. You know, two characters reminiscing over a holiday, more than an actual featured part of my plot.
Interesting. Onwards to Will.
Me. Let's see. I don't think the seasons directly affect what I actually write, but they do affect the scenes that I think about writing. My brain really likes to think about scenes that I'm nowhere near ready to write yet. For example, right now we're getting onto the holidays, you know, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all those fun ones. So my brain's like, what scenes are we going to do? Should we do something for Thanksgiving? Should we do something for Christmas? What should we do? My story's nowhere near actually writing those scenes. My brain wants to think about. So, for the time being, I'm just storing those away. Same thing when we get to the summer months, warm seasons, I start thinking about scenes when my characters would go to the beach or be outside, whether or not they like the warm weather or not. Usually I just end up storing those, plotting them out, and when I actually chronologically get to writing them, I hopefully write them pretty quickly, even if the season that we're actually in doesn't match up with what I'm writing. Right now I'm actually pretty caught up because we're in October now, and the scene I'm writing about is end of August, beginning of September. So I've almost come full circle. As for holidays, I do plan on writing holiday things, birthdays, maybe Thanksgiving. I was thinking of a Christmas scene, but my current novel in progress does take place in a kind of variation of our real world in New England somewhere, so it makes sense for them to celebrate the seasons. Excuse me. I know I skipped over some other ones, like I went through the entire summer month without even touching, like, the 4th of July. Thought about that later. It's like, wait a minute, I started the story, I know I went through, like, April and May, now I'm in July and August. Oops. Oh,
How
well.
un-American of you.
Yes, very un-American.
Of all the holidays to skip.
I didn't write it, but they all went and they saw the fireworks. Part of what makes it interesting is that none of my characters are children or have children. I think the youngest aged character I've written in the story was 18. So there's a lot of adult stuff going on. So stuff that would involve more kids is just completely skipped over.
What? You write adult stuff? I gotta write that down.
Yes, I have to be pretty sure to make sure that my characters are certain characters are of a certain age, just to make sure I don't get scorned for certain things that I may write them doing. But that's pretty much all I got for that.
Alright. Unless anyone has some last-minute follow-up, what have you, on this point, we can roll on to talking point number 2. Yes, no, maybe?
On to the next.
Fair enough. Talking point number 2. What's your advice for writers with minimal to no support system? E.g., their family or friends don't approve of them being a writer, or spending all this time putting words down onto paper. Would anyone care
So
to?
the first thing that I thought was writers have a support system, and then I thought about it a little bit harder, and I realized that especially with the creation of the internet, there's really no excuse to not have a support system in almost everything that you do, writing included. Um, I'm a frequent visitor of Reddit, and some of my inspiration and support comes from the writing subreddit, the NaNoWriMo subreddit, and then there's also a subreddit, Shut Up and Write, which is more of a for the hardcore fan of writing, and then also not being distracted. But honestly, the best way, if you have the means of travel, would be to join up a writing group similar to what we have. And the best way to kick something like that off is through NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month. My wife just found in a drawer my NaNoWriMo bracelet, a USB bracelet that I don't think has my story on it because I backed everything up online to a cloud and on multiple computers, so I don't find it necessary to offload. But I like to wear it during the month as a reminder to actually write.
Okay. I'll jump in. I had to think about my support system, which my family is relatively artistic, so they don't mind that I spend most of my time writing or trying to write. But because they're artistic, they also understand that it is not really that profitable of a lifestyle. So they warn me regularly, like, this is all well and good, but keep your day job. But I also have the local writing group, which keeps on growing every year, and we've maintained a constructively positive group, more or less. I'd like to think, anyway. And we try to have weekly, or not weekly, monthly writing events so we can all gather and peer pressure each other into writing. Although most of us are a little too nice, so we're not very good at peer pressuring each other. We're too passive-aggressive. But we are supportive and encouraging for those people who actually write and get stuff done. And of course, there are the online options of like NaNoWriMo and the equivalents like National Novel Editing Month, and there are offshoots that have been spawned from those websites like the Spork Room, and of course our Fairfield County Writers Group, and there are other equivalents for pretty much everywhere nowadays. You can basically search like my region or my county, my geographical area on Earth, and writing groups, and something will inevitably come up. I mean, unless you live on some small island nation that you've taken over and you're one of 10 people on there, then it might be a little tricky. But for the most part, if you can't find people in person to act as a support group to encourage and help you and find resources, then online is the viable option to go and utilize. And of course, it being the internet, it should go without saying, as many nice people as there are out there that will help you, there's probably twice as many that are just going to screw with you. Because internet trolls are everywhere.
And they are hungry.
Well, that's because we're not feeding them as much, so they're kind of getting pretty hungry.
So just remember, they live off of your tears of despair.
And how?
Yeah, that pretty much covers all I was going to ramble about.
Kind of building on what basically everybody was saying. Like, it seems like in lieu of finding people in person, the internet is your best resource. And interestingly enough, the internet is a great resource for finding groups offline as well. Like like the website Meetup. meetup.com. Like that's a website where I've been able to find groups from not just for coding. Though that was the one thing I was like primarily looking for, like a group where I could interact with programmers and coders, because for some reason I'm the only person in all of New York out of all my friends that actually code. Don't know how that happened.
I think you're the only one that understands coding.
You're probably right.
Well, a lot of the rest of us stayed in Connecticut or went up to Massachusetts or something.
Yeah, New York got no love from the coders, man. What is that about? But I digress. Meetup's been great for finding coder meetups, being able to meet musicians, and Meetup will be a fantastic resource for finding people who have common ground with anything you might be interested in, like just about anything. But just as a word of caution, you're more likely to find groups that you mesh with, as long as you're in a like fairly decent sized city or town, as opposed to like living in bumblefuck nowhere. So just fair warning.
I would be insulted considering that's where I live, but it's true.
It's
There was a road in my town named Bumfagan Road, so I can't say anything.
I'm just saying, like, the more people out there, the more likely you'll be able to find people with common interests. No, not trying to insult anybody's given towns. It's just
I am.
Send all your angry letters to
CJ at.
Oh.
But yeah, that's my spiel. Meetup. Shite.
What did
Well,
you
your
do?
laptop didn't shut off, so that's a good sign.
I've got water everywhere.
End the segment.
Aw.
Next talking point.
Next talking point: reasons why you shouldn't leave your water cup on your desk in front of you, where your arms can flail everywhere.
If you weren't such a Kermit.
Pardon me, guys. I gotta take care of this.
Yeah. While Calvin does damage control, it's Will's turn.
It's my turn. Alright, so you don't have any in-person family support for writing? I say write anyway. Like everyone else said, the internet is definitely a good resource for finding helpful types who will help encourage you. In fact, I'm surprised no one mentioned this already. If you're watching or listening to this, you've already found a group of people who will support you in writing. Well, maybe not Justin. Unless you're writing horror. Then you might get his support.
And theoretically, Ed would be a part of this if you're either RPing or hate milk.
If you write good Roy Ed fan fiction, you will have Ed's support.
Yes. Surely support them.
Alright, but yes, definitely online. Websites, web places everywhere where you can find people you can talk to about writing, or even just venting about writing. I use Tumblr a lot for complaining about writing. Even if no one responds anything, it feels good to just be able to complain if I'm having trouble with the scene.
Tumblr is my home.
Tumblr's good. I also personally like So Furry. A lot of supportive people on there. But yeah, just basically like what everyone else said, the internet is your friend for the most part.
Yeah, most parts of it anyway.
Stay away from things like 4chan and whatnot, but
Mm. And one aspect that I kind of realized we didn't really outright cover amongst all of this talk about uh, in-person groups versus online is if you have not all writers are psychologically 100% stable. In fact, most of us are a little bit awkward in one way, shape, or form. Some of us more than others. But for people like me who have social anxieties, sometimes in-person groups are not the best option, which
yeah.
is why the internet forums and chat rooms and various other places are a good beginning point to kind of get used to it and figure out how to interact with other writers or figure out what writers you want to interact with, because some of us are a little crazier and weirder than others.
But we're shy, so no sudden movements.
That too. Most of us don't bite, even after quick movements. But we may run away.
I only thought you asked me to. Sorry.
Do we have to pay before or after?
I take half up front.
I don't have to pay.
Pay it other ways.
Well, instead of shifting over into the Not Suitable for Writers podcast, let's go to talking point number 3. If you could get 1 hour of unlimited access to a bookstore, what would you do? And only 1 hour. No more, no less.
Do I get to take my hoard with me for free afterwards?
You're allowed to do whatever you want within the store, and you are allowed to leave with whatever you want without any consequences.
I'm good with that, thanks.
Yeah, I was thinking like that. Is like if I can just take whatever I want, I'm going to spend my hour finding everything I've been looking for. All the manga, any novels, any Dungeons and Dragon related modules, any books on writing or drawing or programming or anything like that. Collect them all together in my hour and then just take them with me. It'll give me plenty of time to read them later.
I actually polled some of my friends on some online forums for this one just to see what their initial reactions were, and a disconcerting amount of them, their first thought and reaction was, "Yay, sex in a bookstore."
Ugh.
I'm
So
not
many
quite
fever
sure.
cuts.
Yeah. I really don't know why that was their first thought, and it was not mine. My first thought was more to get like a copy of everything on my wish list and run away, because my wish list for books and DVDs and CDs and manga and all that is multiple pages long in tiny, tiny font. But my second thought was, okay, the bookstore would probably just have to write off several $100s worth of stuff as a loss because it mysteriously disappeared within the span of an hour. If it was a larger chain, I will not name any because that would be rude and we'd get in trouble. I wouldn't feel as bad because if you're a national or international chain, you could probably figure out how to balance your budget.
Also, they probably have insurance.
That too. But I mean, if it's a smaller, like independent bookstore or even a used bookstore, I might actually feel kind of awkward doing that. Like just cleaning them out of entire genres, perhaps. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable doing that, even if there were no consequences. So my alternative option for that would be I'd just build myself a book fort and chill out inside of it, preferably with pastries and coffee. Or maybe just host a crazy writer party there for an entire hour where we can do whatever the heck we want without fear of being shushed.
I too assumed that this was going to be some sort of monkey paw 1 hour thing where there would be long-term ramifications that were not clear in the question. So I wrote down a list of things that I could probably get done, maybe not all of them, in that hour that doesn't involve stealing all the things. So I'm going to go through that list one by one, and the rest of you feel free to comment. I did mention that 1 hour is not a lot of time, and is less time than I would spend in a bookstore in reality. So this was a difficult question, assuming that I wasn't going to try to steal everything. But one thought that I had, depending on the bookstore, opening and checking out all those like boxed kits, like, hey, learn how to brush paint. Here's a kit of brush paint and some ink and a book. And I always want to open it up and see what's actually inside to try to test the quality. So I would be opening up a lot of those, checking the origami paper, see if it's white on one side or if it's actually decent, that kind of thing. Another thing I thought about would be reading all of the comics in all the daily calendars, so I can get that out of the way immediately. I also thought about, I wonder if an hour is enough time to rush through the entire Sandman anthology, because usually I wouldn't be able to do that at a bookstore because it'd be wrapped in plastic or chained behind some sort of wall for some reason.
If it was the entire anthology of the Sandman, it would take more than an hour.
I was thinking maybe just like the 70s or something I could probably get away with, but I'm not familiar with it at all, so I wouldn't be one to talk.
It's a very good series worth checking out when you get the opportunity, but I forget exactly how many books are in the overall series, but it would, even speed reading, it would take several hours.
I saw a picture online that I really liked, and I thought that I would probably do this, is go to the mystery novels section and turn all the spines backwards. So all you see is the pages, and you don't know what the titles are. I thought that was appropriate. I would also maybe go through all of the books and pick out all my favorite books and put them on the front table, on like the front display, to try to boost sales. Maybe if I'm published, I would grab all my books and all my friends' books and do the same thing. And last but not least, I would browse the adult advice section without feeling embarrassed. Maybe there's probably a lot of good stuff there that I could learn, but I don't really want to hang out in that section too long, just from anxiety reasons and crippling embarrassment.
Fair enough. I'm not even sure why I gave the 1 hour time limit. I guess maybe to see if that would change people's answers subconsciously. Because, I mean, if you had, say, even 24 hours, that would change things dramatically.
Oh, yes. I may actually read things instead of move things around.
Yeah, I would be considerably less tempted to just pick up everything, toss it in a cart, and run away if I had 24 whole hours of unlimited access.
Yeah, 24 hours really. I mean, 1 hour is really not enough time. So, like, my answer was, like, basically go, like, pull a full-on supermarket sweep in that bookstore. The primary sections that I would try to ransack would be the sci-fi section, the fantasy section, try to grab all the steampunk books that I can, and anything that looks anything close to steampunk. And then I would run to the computer section, grab all the coding books, catch my eye within like 1 or 2 seconds, and then hightail it to the graphic design section and do the same. And maybe while I'm there, I would peruse the music section. Music section. See if there's any CDs that might give me some sort of inspiration while I'm coding / writing / anything. And then, with a few minutes to spare, I would hit up the coffee shop inside the bookstore because I'm pretty sure I'd be out of energy after running around like a chicken with my head cut off for that entire hour. Yeah, that's about it.
You know, I find it interesting that amongst all of us, no one even thought to mention anything about magazines. I didn't even think of it.
Um,
You know, the magazines are going to have like the current month, but they're not really going to have archives of magazines typically, so I didn't even consider that. I may yank out all the cards that say, you know, sign up on a discount just in case, so I don't have to go back to the bookstore later if I change my mind. But, you know, it would only take a few minutes to browse through all the advertisements in various magazines.
Mm. I don't know. I think I retroactively add to my list that I would grab a copy of all of the writing magazines because they do actually have some really good articles in those usually, but they tend to be prohibitively expensive for my budget. Those things usually cost more than a paperback book sometimes. So I tend to only get like the annuals in January or so. And somehow we've already burned through all 3 talking points. Huh. Well, that means it's time for the What Have You Been Reading and or Writing segment. Who has been reading and or writing this week? Anyone?
I actually have been reading and writing this week, despite my job's best efforts. For one, I've been reading the flavor books in Skyrim, the video game. I always collected
books within the game.
Yeah, there are books within the game. A
Yeah,
lot
there's
of them.
like thousands, it looks like.
Yes. They're all fairly short, you know, like a dozen pages or so. But I always, all my characters always hoard all the books, but I never actually get to read them. So this playthrough, I'm actually hoarding all the books and reading them, which is fun. Maybe next week I'll have a short little sample of stuff from there. Will might appreciate the lusty Argonian maid.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as long as it's not an excerpt from that series.
There's only 2 of those out of the thousands. So.
You might have to save that for the NSFW one.
Yes.
So wait a minute. The lusty Argonian maid has actually been fully written as a full story?
No, I was just saying I'm going through Skyrim, like playing the game and reading the books.
Oh, okay.
Because I used to hoard all the books and not actually read them before.
Right.
So this playthrough I'm reading them all. As far as actual books, I've been reading Paddle Your Own Canoe, One Man's Fundamentals for Delicious Living by Nick Offerman, who you might know from Parks and Recreation, playing Ron Swanson, the manly man, you know, turf and turf he would eat while watching Bridge Over the River Kwai, that kind of guy.
Yes.
He's got a pretty fun book out. I'm still only in the, hey, this is the stuff about my past, and not really in the comedy bits yet. So I'm looking forward to moving on to that pretty soon. But the first sentence, to give you a little bit of a flavor, is Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, where do I begin chapter 1? I suppose we'll do a chronological thing and start you off with some of the early years, a taste of the vintage stuff. So that's sort of the type of tongue-in-cheek writing you can look forward to. Also, when I click the random button on Amazon, because I didn't want to lose my place in my actual book, there was a guide on how to build a chair, and it was step 1, gather materials, and there's a picture of a giant tree. And then step 2 was build a chair, and there's a picture of a chair. So that's some of the comedy you can expect. And there's a link to it, the Amazon link on our show notes, or you can click through our Amazon thing and then find it yourself, which is probably better for us. As far as writing, I've been writing blog post drafts for the launch of my new site, which I finally got up and running, although there's not a whole lot there at the moment. But I'll get back to that during the plug section of our podcast.
All right. Anyone else been reading and or writing?
Just the usual here. No reading, writing, roommate.
Short and sweet. As for me, I started a new book because I want to read all the books. And it's been another one that has been sitting in my Kindle for longer than I care to admit. This one is Fae Touched by Aaron Zaro, also known as Aaron Kendall, because multiple names are fun. Let's see here. The teaser for this one is Asha is the queen of the Fae, genetically engineered immortal humans who feed on human souls to survive. But she's running from her people. When she is found by her enemy, one of the hunters of the Fae, she expects to die. Yet, he's oddly intrigued by her, and Asha finds herself falling in love with him. Aww. Hoping she can find safety and the home she's been seeking. Then she's kidnapped, and everything changes, as kidnapping tends to do. Fallon is a hunter. She's looking for her long-lost sister, using an addictive drug to search through the stream of time. Her addiction leaves her dangerously exposed to her enemies, but consumed by her search, she doesn't care, because addiction. Until her fellow hunters start dying from a mysterious illness. She is torn between duty and desire and must find an answer before they all die. What Fallon doesn't know is that Asha might be the key to saving them all, if only she can find her. And time is running out. Insert dramatic music here.
Dun, dun, dun.
If you're traveling through the time stream, is time really ever running out?
Well, one of the quirks of entering the time stream, you use virtual reality software and hardware to access it, and every time you use this very addictive drug, you die a little, literally. Considering these people are technically immortal, she is slowly turning mortal.
Okay, so time is running out. Got it.
I think I'm about 60% of the way through it at this point, and I am kind of intrigued to see how it all pans out. And it is very effective writing, considering I really want the villain to get her comeuppance. And then some. As for writing, apparently the show notes deleted what I wrote, because that's fun. I have restarted my efforts to write regularly every day, so I've gone back to 750words.com, where it forces you to write 750 words a day, or it publicly shames you, at least on their website. So I've been writing bits and pieces for short stories and little concept ideas and trying to figure out some rants for the Not Suitable for Writers podcast. And I'm slowly getting back into the habit of writing on a daily basis, whether I like it or not, whether I have time or not. But overall, there's nothing really worth sharing on the podcast. At least not yet. And unless Calvin or the elusive Ed have anything to add, we can move on to upcoming events. I will take that silence as a continue. Upcoming events. We have lots of regional events because it's October and November is coming up, and that means Nano. Let's see, on October 19th, which is a Saturday, from 2 to 5 p.m., we are doing a Nano 101 Q&A session over at the Darien Library. They have been kind enough to host us for several events in the upcoming months, and we are thankful for that. So if you can make it there on this coming Saturday from 2 to 5, we will go over the various resources available to our group and to Nano participants in general, and you're welcome to do any questions on how the hell do I write 50,000 words in 30 days anyway, and stuff like that. We'll try and answer them. That doesn't cut it. On Sunday the 27th, we're going back to the Darien Library and doing an all-out workshop on surviving the novel writing process and creating a plot in 60 minutes. Or I forget the official title of that workshop. It's basically we have a work packet for attendees, and in 60 minutes, you will have a plot. You will have characters, you will have the plot arc, and all sorts of little fiddly bits in between. And that all these events are completely open to the public. Anyone can come if the schedule aligns with yours. And of course, November kicks off all sorts of regional events. We have writing events all over. It'll be on our event calendar accordingly, because I don't really feel like listing all of them out. And sometime in the last week of October, I am going to be doing, I don't think it'll be a live stream version of that Plot in 60 Seconds workshop. It'll probably be a recorded version that we'll just post up. But keep an eye out for that for those that are unable to make the physical regional event. All right, on to writing prompts. Because prompts are fun. As always, our Muse Food provides 10 one-liner writing prompts in order to get your story rolling. Use it as a first sentence in your story and see where your muse goes from there, or try tossing a one-liner in the middle of a piece already in the works. Whatever it takes to get your writing written. Along with those, we also provide 10 one-worders, which are meant as more of a concept-driven inspiration. Try tossing one or two of these into your piece as an extra challenge. And of course, it is not necessary to use all of these prompts at once, or even any of them. This is just an extra resource for you to use when your muse is tired and cranky, and there are deadlines to be made, or you just happen to have some spare time to actually write, and your muse just doesn't want to cooperate at the moment. So use these as you will. This week's writing prompts are available over on fcwriters.com/musefood, I believe. And let's see, where is the screen share? Do this so I can bring them up. There we are. This week's writing prompts are: a splinter of moonlight pierced through thick curtains, illuminating a lock of green hair. This just won't do. You have dirt under your fingernails again. Zombies are about as real as dragons or platypi. I can't wait for the fireworks to start. One for Ed. I like 'em rough.
I knew there was no joke there.
Stop using ellipses everywhere. They never win. They never will. I can only imagine where I overheard this one. It smells like weasel in here. As for the one-worders, we have catastrophe, magic, sorcery, that's a bit repetitive, traitor, queen, cruel, wind, sight, forensics, and plushie.
One of these things is not like the other.
And as always, make of these prompts what you will. If you write a 5,000 word or less short story, send us a link or a copy of it so we can review and talk about it on a future episode. And if one-liners and one-worders don't really do it for you, if that's not really how your muse works, if you're more of a visual creator, well, then we have story cubes. We utilize Rory story cubes, available over at storycubes.com, which provides 9 dice with different images on each side. Roll the dice and try and make a story out of the 9 images you get. We utilize the app version. It's cross-platform for all Apple and Android devices. I don't know about Windows offhand, actually, so maybe it's not all cross-platform. Anyway, we utilize the original set, the action set, and the voyages set when we do our combo for the week. And the combo is viewable in our show notes, and bring it up on the screen share. There we are. These are this week's images. Half the fun is trying to interpret what the actual images are for you. But for listeners out there, this week's combination looks to be a house, scales, as in like if you were to weigh 2 things, it would be on a scale.
A balance, what that is called.
Yeah, that thing. I'm trying to think of that damn word all week. A bag filled with something and all tied up. A magnet. Skull and crossbones in a black circle. A bouncy ball of some sort. A flashlight that is on. A creepily smiling man digging a hole. And 1 dice, or a die. Currently facing with the 1 showing, so you have a snake eye. Make of those what you will. And again, if you write a short story off of these, send us a copy or a URL where we can view it. We shall read, review, and get it on a future episode of the podcast. All right. Take us off screen share. There we are. That was a surprisingly quick episode for this week. Does anyone have any follow-up, anything, or anything they would like to cover before we wrap things up within an hour?
Wow.
Yeah, we powered through things this week. No real derailments or distractions.
We got the right away.
Just as we said that. Okay.
We gotta save the technical difficulties for just before we wrap things up.
Calvin, your feedbacking.
Yeah, it should be better now.
Oh, thank God.
Hooray.
Okay.
So is there anything anyone would like to address before we wrap things up for the week?
Calvin just fall down a flight of stairs.
Alright, I guess that's gonna wrap things up for this week then.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it, and I'm just going through the one-liners in the last one. It's just, oh man. Sorry, it relates to roommate in a way that makes me groan. Anyway, continue.
At least it wasn't one of the other one-liners.
Well, the other ones were interesting, but for anyone who knows what's going on right now with what I'm writing, it smells like weasel in here. It's just, yeah.
I'm still not even remotely caught up, so I don't remember what characters you have and what species they happen to be at the moment. So
Nothing to do with that.
I only have 1 weasel, and yeah.
And he lives up to his name.
Yeah.
His species.
Well, I don't want to be downing the weasels, but
I doubt the weasels would want to be downed.
this one weasel is... Yeah. You can
Something to
tell
bring up on
by
the Not Safe for Work podcast is not suitable
Hmm.
for writers.
No, it's bad.
No, he's just a general schmuck.
A douche weasel.
He is a douche weasel. It's a new species of weasel, the douche weasel. And he is the only member.
Okay, wrapping the podcast up with douche weasels. Somehow that ends us up with sponsorship time. Good lord.
Don't be a douche weasel. Sponsor our podcast.
Yeah, let's go with that for this week. Now, if you do enjoy or appreciate any of the content that we've put together, if we've made you at least laugh once, hopefully we have, you can show your appreciation first by subscribing to our YouTube page or commenting or sharing it amongst your various social media outlets so you can get the word out and we can get more viewers who can join in our shenanigans. And if you want to go above and beyond, our show notes for each episode will have a PayPal donation link in there. And if you donate certain amounts, we love to give something back to you. For a $1 donation, you get a shout out. You can promote your site, your social media account, your own podcast, or you can just say hello to us, whatever you like. If you up that to $5, you get to promote a Talking Points question on the show. So if there's something you want us to banter about and dig into, for the price of a fancy coffee, you get the entire crew talking. And something I actually haven't addressed in the past that I only realized this week, if you have something you want us to address, by all means send us an email about it at any time, and we'll add it into the queue. It's just if you donate $5, your talking point kind of gets bumped up to the top of the queue, so you get priority posting. But if there's something you want us to cover that we haven't, then by all means, send us an email or post a comment on this video, and we'll add it to the list. Let's see, where were we? If you want to go all out, there's a $10 sponsorship level where you get to sponsor the entire episode because you think we're just that awesome. And you want us to promote your generosity for an entire 1 to 2 hours of podcasty goodness. And it kind of ties in with the $1 shout out of if you have a site, social media account, your own podcast, what have you, we will of course promote that as well in the $10 sponsorship. And for alternatives, if that doesn't really do it for you, we do have a book on sale through our site. Go over to fcwriters.com, click on the store, and the Word Ninja book is available for sale in print and ebook formats. The Word Ninja book provides over 100 articles on the craft of writing, and we've had a half dozen authors contribute to the book. So it's not just one man's opinion, it's multiple people's opinions and expertise mixed in there. And the print copies for that are currently $15, while the ebook copy is $10. All right, with that, it's time to tell people who we are and where they can stalk us. Let's start with Calvin.
Alrighty. Let's see. What are the various places you can find me? It's quite a few, actually. You can find me at Full Coverage Writers. I'm the webmaster and guy who fixes things when CJ breaks them, or anybody else. If there's any issues with the site, or you have any questions or comments for me specifically, you can email me at the webmaster@fcwriters.com. Elsewhere on the internet, you can find me at Riffraff, where I am the digital media editor. So any website issues, or just want to say hello, or clue me in on any artists or songwriters you think we should check out, I'm Calvin at riffraff.net, and the website itself is riffraff.net, riffraff.net. fcwritersblog.net. If you want to see some of the other websites I've put together, my personal portfolio website is calvin.cwillia.ms, calvin.cwillia.ms, and my email address is calvin@cwillia.ms. On Twitter and Instagram, I am at ccwii, and on Tumblr, I am Instacal. I think that should just about cover everything.
So basically, Calvin is the internet.
In a matter of speaking.
Alright, let's reverse the order a little bit and go over to Will.
To me. All right. As usual, you can find me, my personal. Let's see. I don't even know what order to do this in anymore. You can find works of my story in progress, My Roommate's a Stripper, at the official Tumblr page, myroommatesastripper.tumblr.com. I also have a personal Tumblr page at darkhome.tumblr.com. Both of them are not safe for work, so you gotta be like 18 on it, but you know, fun stuff. Don't view while at work. I have a seldom used Twitter account at Will Granville. Always forget about it. And I have an account at SoFurry at darkhome.sofurry.com. Adult only.
And Justin.
So, for the first time, I'm finally promoting something. My new website just launched called facingmyreality.com. If you happen to go there while listening to this live right now, you'll see a bunch of references to bacon and meat. That is a temporary page that was up while I was practicing launching this website today. By the time you're a real person and you're probably listening to this, and in future episodes there will actually be real content up. I plan on putting the first article that's already pretty much written up tonight or tomorrow, and then after that updating weekly with articles. I'll have more information on how the website functions in the next week's episode, but for now, might as well plug the actual site, facingmyreality.com.
Why have I never heard of Bacon Ipsum?
It is amazing.
How have you not heard of that? I've heard of that.
I haven't. I've basically been stuck on La Rizzle this whole time.
Oh God.
Yeah, I love that one.
That one gives me a headache.
La Rizzle, my nizzle. Adipocin, break your neck. Adipocin shiz. For Rizzo.
On that note,
That was poetry.
I'm glad I used the bacon one.
What was that, Ed?
So that was poetry, my friend. Sheer poetry.
Thank you, I try.
That is what we call impromptu writing.
okay, as for myself, I don't really have that many personal places where you can find my work anywhere online because I'm lazy and I don't really post that stuff. But for full coverage writers, we have all sorts of places you can track us down. Our main website is fcwriters.com, where we have all the previous episodes of our podcast with show notes posted, all of our previous Muse Food posts. We also have the occasional recommended reading post of something that one of our crew members has read. And we have worksheets of various topics, primarily character creation at the moment. I'm hoping to get some plot creation worksheets on there in the near future.
Oh, I'll have to give you my world building packet.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Throw that up there.
And as for social media, we're over at Tumblr at fcwordninja.tumblr.com. Our Facebook is facebook.com/fullcoveragewriters. Our literary Twitter is at fcwordninja. And if there's anything that you want to reach out to us for or about, either for the show, the website, any of our resources, what have you, you can email us at wordninja@fcwriters.com. And with that, we're wrapping up episode 15. Until next week, everyone.
Adios.
Ta-ta. So I'm hoping to take advantage of that, because if the entire office is closed, then there's no excuse for them to try and make me do stuff.
Please.
So I can claim to be focusing entirely on writing, but more realistically, I will probably be playing my Wii U that I have not touched in 4 months. Hopefully some combination thereof, so I can at least have a balance of doing some writing. We'll see.
Could write a character playing a Wii U.
That actually wouldn't be a bad idea.
And if they've never actually utilized a Wii U before, depending on the game, it could be very hilarious. Probably about as hilarious as our college tries with DDR. With or without the alcohol.
Ah, those were the days.
As for my characters, I've had some actually celebrate their birthdays, or they've forgotten their own birthdays because most of them are too busy to notice, and then someone reminds them. But for the most part, even regular holidays don't happen much in my stories. Either the plot doesn't last that long, or they're in a universe or world where those types of holidays don't really occur that much. Do holidays or seasons affect your writing at all? E.g., writing horror in October or romance in February? Do your characters get to celebrate any holidays or special events? Would anyone like to kick this one off before I mandatorily volunteer someone?
Let's pick somebody.
Eeny, meeny, miny. Calvin talked first.
Alright, fine. Well, in terms of story writings, holidays and things like that, I've never been a major factor. Then again, I've never really thought about having any of my characters like celebrate holidays in any sort of major capacity. Music writing, however, that's a completely different story. Not just holidays, but seasons have been a major source of inspiration for me. I've written songs specifically about winter, spring, and the fall. I've yet to create anything summer related. I'm trying to work on that. I'm still trying to figure out what summer feels like musically.
Laziness.
That could be. But I'll save a summer song for when the inspiration hits me.
Maybe in the summer?
There have been a number of summers where nothing has hit me. But oddly enough, songs by certain seasons end up happening during different seasons.
I think the summer season is when you write convention songs.
Oh, God.
In terms of holidays, I do have a Christmas song brewing in my head. I think I've mentioned that before.
I don't remember you mentioning the Christmas one.
No, me either.
Go back a few podcasts. I did mention it.
Right
Is it just Feliz Navidad over and over again?
How did you know?
What stuck in my head all the time.
No, but this one is going to I know all of you have seen Charlie Brown's Christmas special and anything Charlie Brown related. So if you get a feel for the jazz tracks in any given Charlie Brown cartoon, you'll have a a pretty decent idea of how this one's going to feel. So I'm kind of excited about that. Actually, I'm pretty excited about that. It's just the piano part is a pain in the ass because I don't know how to play piano. But it'll get done eventually.
One of these months.
Or
on
years.
top of the 50 billion other things on the to-do list.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
I guess we'll move it down the line, and it's my turn. Yay.
Yay.
I don't even know what brought up this question when I added it to the show notes, but it did make me think, like, do I actually care about holidays? And the answer is no.
Screw the holidays.
Well, at this point, my family's down to 4 people, if you count extended family. We don't really do holidays much, unless you have a fancy dinner with ham or some such. That's about it. We don't really go all out for anything anymore. So half the time I don't even recognize that holidays are happening. Like tomorrow, for example. But that's because I'm working.
Boo.
But yeah, holidays don't really do much for me in regards to my writing schedule, other than actually this year I'm getting a mandatory week off between Christmas and New Year. Good afternoon, ladies and menfolk, and welcome to the Word Ninja podcast. We're a 2-hour ramble of writers surviving muses, battling writer's blocks, and encouraging writers to get writing already. You're joining us for episode 15. Good Lord, how did we make it this far?
On the wings of an angel.
Oh, I hope that's not going to be part of that weird dinosaur story with barbecued angel wings or anything. That would just get awkward. It's not even 1 minute in and we're already starting to derail.
We haven't
Okay,
even introduced ourselves yet.
back to introductions. I am Charles, your instigator of literary insanity, and very easily distracted. And joining us today is... Come on, click. Calvin Williams.
Hello, everyone.
William Granville.
Hello, hello.
And Justin Isaacs.
Good day.
We do have an Ed somewhere in the background lurking, but he is not feeling very sociable today.
I'm really sick today. I'm sorry.
Must have been too much milk.
Shut up!
And with that, let's move on to the talking points for today, shall we?
Why not?
Talking point number 1 for today.